Tonight on CBC Alberta News at 11, the Alberta legislature starts a new session. More on the avalanche that killed 9 skiers. And in sports, the Flames and the Kings continue their battle for first in the Smythe. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, as you've probably seen on the National and the Journal, Kurt Browning has done it again. For the 3rd straight year, Browning has won the World Men's Figure Skating Championship. Al Nagy will have a full report on the competition later on the Sports News. Shortly after, however, his win today, Al did talk to members of Browning's family in Caroline.
Mrs. Browning, 1 world championship for Kurt was surprising. 2nd was astounding. What would you say the 3rd world championship is?
This is totally glorious. We are really proud of him.
No doubt about it. Tell me what the town of Caroline is like after Kurt wins a world championship. I mean, is everybody glued to the radio or TV sets?
Well, we haven't really got it on TV yet, as of yet, Caroline or us. We have a satellite dish, and we wasn't able to get it through. And I just came from Caroline, and everyone there knew, and they're pretty excited.
I take it the word spreads pretty fast.
Yes, it does. The thing is, Kurt's mother phoned to Caroline Arena, and it spread in a hurry.
When was the last time you spoke with Kurt?
Oh, goodness, the last time would have been near Christmas.
When will you speak to him again, and what will you say to him?
Well, he'll just get one big hug.
Nice talking to you, Mrs. Browning.
Thank you.
The Alberta legislature began a new session today, and Alberta's new Lieutenant Governor, Gordon Towers, delivered his first speech from the throne.
The fiscal challenges for government grow more difficult every day, but striving to balance the budget remains a priority.
Afterward, the government said it definitely will balance this year's budget. But the throne speech was soft on that issue and vague on almost everything else. The government did pat itself on the back for keeping the economy strong and predicted it will remain strong this year. The government promised to establish a conference on the economy to review the province's economic plan for the next decade, but no details. And there's a promise to implement programs to help the disabled, but again, no details. That was no comfort to a small group of disabled protesters who gathered at the legislature.
To see you, to speak with you.
Sure, you just have to
We've been trying for a year, and it's been very difficult.
Well, it doesn't take anyone that long.
It's taken us that long.
Well, we'll do better then. Phone up.
All right,
Yep.
we'll do that.
Here's a promise that may look familiar. An Alberta Family Life and Drug Abuse Foundation. Premier Getty promised this in the throne speech 2 years ago, and then again last year. It may be a case of 3rd time lucky for the Premier.
Well, we'll have legislation this year.
The government also repeated promises to better protect the environment and give all Albertans a voice in rewriting our federal constitution. And this year, the province will appoint an ethics commissioner to oversee conflicts of interest among MLAs. With more on that story, here's Holly Doan.
Oh, I'm not trying to hide anything.
The Premier said last year there was nothing to hide about Tory backbencher Steve Zerewski. Back then, Zerewski was in hot water over a piece of land he owned in his hometown of Smoky Lake. Town councillors said Zerewski used his position to lobby them to build a chicken plant on the land.
That I, at no time, used my position as a member of this legislative assembly.
Zerewski denied any conflict of interest, and the Tories backed him up. But the suspicion continued. 8 months later, the Premier himself was under suspicion. A newspaper report said Getty was playing the oil market and making money off companies which received subsidies from the Premier's own government. Getty protested he'd done nothing wrong.
People in Alberta want to know what it's going to take for this Premier to even be concerned about ethical standards in this sector.
Today, the government answered calls for new ethical standards. The throne speech promised new rules. Rules to keep politicians honest, and rules to protect those who might be unfairly accused.
Politics is that kind of a partisan game.
Former MLA Walter Buck was one of the people who suggested the new rules, like barring MLAs from using inside information to make money, and sending MLAs in trouble to an ethics commissioner who could make recommendations as to what sanctions, if any, should be imposed.
I hope it removes all the innuendo and so on that you can have in those circumstances.
Holly Doan, CBC News, Edmonton.
The leaders of Alberta's opposition parties weren't impressed with the throne speech. New Democrat leader Ray Martin says the government doesn't seem to have a plan to deal with the province's problems.
This is frankly a tired, complacent, old government that doesn't have any new initiatives in this flimsy document at all to deal with the serious problems facing the province.
I don't think people should have been troubled. I don't think they should have been brought here to listen to this nonsense, these fluffy cliches.
Novotel has dialed the wrong number. The Alberta government's cellular phone company has reported that last year it lost $204 million. The NDP is calling for the company to be shut down. And the man who runs the company says things will have to change if Novotel is going to turn things around. Donna Cunningham reports.
Novotel makes cellular telephones, but it's never made money. This past year it lost $204 million when it was counting on its first ever profit. Last year, Novotel was for sale as part of AGT's TELUS deal. But the cellular phone company was taken out of the deal after projected earnings were proven to be way out of line. Its new projection was for a loss of $4 million. Yesterday, it announced that loss was $204 million.
The sales did not materialize to the extent that we expected, and that was partly due to our own doings. We missed some pretty important new product introduction dates. We had some quality problems, and we, because of those, lost market share, particularly in the U.S.
The minister responsible for the company says it has to change.
It's a huge amount of money, and we shouldn't discount it, and that's why we took action immediately. And we've got the management committee that works with the management of Novotel completely assessing this company.
The changes at Novotel could mean some of its 1,400 Alberta workers will be unemployed. The manufacturing plants in Lethbridge and in Calgary could become smaller. All options the company is considering.
Now, we've been given a strong mandate by the government of Alberta to take whatever action is necessary to put this company onto a firm footing.
But the opposition says a firm footing is gone for this company.
At this stage, it looks so bad with these numbers that I just can't help thinking they should just shut it down and the minister should resign early.
If it shouldn't continue on, if it can't compete in the international marketplace, shut it down. If it can compete, but it needs to have certain things done, changed, to make it more effective and efficient, make those changes. But don't rely on Mr. Stewart and don't rely on Mr. Getty because they don't know how to do it.
Novatel's been told to do whatever it has to do to make a profit. At one time last year, it was courting a German company looking for a partner, but that fell through. Now, with last year's losses to add to its portfolio, it's not likely anybody other than the Alberta taxpayer is going to be owning Novotel for a while. Donna Cunningham, CBC News, Calgary.
The City of Edmonton has upheld the decision to issue a permit to Dr. Henry Morgentaler for his abortion clinic. 3 challenges to the permit were dismissed today by the city's Development Appeal Board. However, the permit was suspended for a month to allow opposing groups to make further appeals, and a spokesman for Campaign Life says his group will be appealing. Morgentaler wants to open his clinic in July. Police have now identified the victims of Canada's worst heli-skiing accident. 9 people, an American, a Mexican, and 7 Europeans died Monday in a massive avalanche in the Bugaboo Mountains just south of Golden in British Columbia. The accident has prompted calls for tighter controls of the heli-skiing industry. But as Des Kilfoyle reports, that isn't likely to happen.
9 people died Monday, bringing the total of heli-skiing fatalities in the last decade to 26. The opposition in British Columbia says that's enough.
The government's just turning its back on this issue. It's cost 12 lives in the last year and more than that. And I think that the government ought not to sidestep its responsibility, but instead should have a good look at what's happening. It's had the advice and there's nothing more to wait for.
Heli-skiing is illegal in national parks. It's considered too much of a commercial intrusion. And attempts to try it in other parts of Alberta have failed because of too much wind or not enough snow. So every year, hundreds of Alberta skiers risk death by avalanche in southeastern BC for the joy of deep, untouched powder. Heli-ski companies say they do a good job preventing avalanches and in other safety training procedures and don't need more government regulation. Besides, they say there have been just as many people killed in other high-risk sports like mountain climbing, which has little government regulation. The federal government says it has no jurisdiction over heli-skiing. The provincial government in British Columbia seems to agree with the industry.
Is a further expenditures of taxpayer dollars and a building of the bureaucracy going to save or prevent one accident?
So for now, at least, the high risk of heli-skiing will remain part of its thrill. Des Kilfoyle, CBC News, Calgary.
Still to come on the CBC Alberta News tonight, another look at Kurt Browning's winning skate at the World Figure Skating Championships. And when we come back, food and wine and Colin McLean, all in one place, right after this.